I think that as business people, you have a solution to someone's problem. You have to stop apologizing for having the solution.
Personally, a framework that helped me a lot was, what is something that's happening today? What is something that I learned today? And I'm going to share that one story, and then I'm going to relate it to my business.
Did you guys know that you have the same mannerisms?
No, we're sitting down. We're like identical.
We are brothers.
You are brothers.
What are the things they need to keep in mind when they're trying to be like, okay, I'm consistent, but I just look exactly like everybody else?
I actually think that so many people get caught up in I have to be different that they actually end up kind of pinning themselves back into the box. The differentiator can easily become just staying power. How long do I stick with it? You look like you're going to go podcast.
Podcasters have a look.
Yeah, I guess so.
Might be the self-promoting half of the podcast. It could be, you know?
I mean, you are a content machine. Like, how did you get to that point?
So, to be completely candid,
Lindsey, welcome to the show. You walked in one day into the studio. You were like, action mode. Let's do a VSL. Here's how I want my shot. Here's what I'm going to say. These are my bullet points. And you went in there and you killed it. And it was awesome.
Thank you.
And
Dream client, I will say. Dream client.
Dream
you know
client.
what you want, and you are not afraid of the camera.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And also, I was like, VSL, you're like other level. And then we started.
She knows the terminology.
We did some research and we creeped you out a little bit with like, what's happening here?
Where did she come from?
Yeah, what's happening? She looks educated on this content and like sales stuff.
Yeah.
Turns out you've helped more than 500 businesses.
I have.
You've trained 6, 7, and 8-figure sales teams.
Yep.
You've made so much money. And you share this on your show, Unreasonable.
I do.
And then we're like, we need to bring her to the show.
She's got to be in here. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no, not that one. This one. Hey,
There's a little sounds going on in
Sound
here.
effects?
I know.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, Lindsey. We're honored to have you here. Hopefully some of that rubs and, we can continue selling
Awesome.
even more.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. No, you guys were actually really great because so I moved here a year and a half ago and I don't really know any other entrepreneurs or like other people in this area who live in the same world. And like, do you ever feel like people live in a completely different world than you?
All the time. All the time.
So I'm coming up the elevator on the way here and these guys, I went to the 3rd floor, the wrong floor, by the way.
It happens.
And they're like, blue collar guys, like maybe in construction or something it looks like. And they're like, are you going to the podcast room? And I'm like, how do you know that? You look like you're going to go podcast. Okay, well, I am actually.
Podcasters have a look.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Is it the blazer and the hat? I don't know.
Yeah, might be the self-promoting half of the podcast. It could be,
Shout out.
Shameless.
Link below link below.
Unreasonable. Yes.
Yeah.
So, you just often feel like you are in a completely different space. You're living a completely different life. Do people are like, what are you doing? Like, what do you do all day? Do you even work?
Yeah.
Must be nice.
I think it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real. You just hang out on the internet or whatever. So I get that a lot. So it was really good I think I found you through Google, actually. So shout out to your SEO and your Google listings working.
Studio listing. Yeah.
That was really great. So I found you guys. It was super easy to get booked in. And yes, I did have to record VSL and intro content to courses and masterminds and things. So it was really cool to work with you all that first
time. It
definitely
kept me on my toes because it was not the regular setup. So it's like, let's move this here. Let's use this mic. Let's do the other thing. I was like, this is so exciting.
Yeah, he sent me a picture. He's like, are you proud of me?
I was very
Does
proud.
this look good?
Oh, that's cute.
Because Fonzie is normally like the genius behind, how things look. And then if it looks bad, it's definitely my fault. That's what happens. But anyways, apart from that, Lindsey, obviously, you've had a lot of experience in this. And we were born in the online world, right?
Yeah.
And you deal with these sales teams. And I think for a lot of businesses that might be starting or like creating content as well. I mean, you are a content machine. Your Instagram is like, you're there documenting. Last week you were a speaker at your event, right? It was incredible. And we're just keeping up. And I'm like, man, like there's just certain people that can do that well with the right message. You're constantly talking to your market. Like, is that something that, like, how did you get to that point?
So to be completely candid, I feel like I'm still figuring it out. Like, I feel as if I am still figuring out what that core message is. So whenever I feel a little lost or when I'm like, is this on brand or is this going to get the message across or whatever, I just come back to whatever is real in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think for multi-passionates and like entrepreneurs, especially. Yeah. So, you have multiple passions. Maybe you're passionate about content and you're passionate about CRMs or processes, all these other things. It's like, well, I could talk about 20 different things, in a single episode or in a single piece of content. So what I do for that is I actually just give myself permission to go there. Like I just give I want to talk about, I told a story, in fact, of me eating a raw steak off of the floor of like this women's retreat last year and like tied that into like feminine leadership and like releasing stigma and like making money more freely and all these things. And then I have a post that I've been drafting for a couple of days now around like leading your team and, how to be a better leader and things. And it's like, just say what's real for you. Yeah. I think that too many people try to put themselves into a box. Yeah. They try to say, well, does this fit into my content pillars? Does this fit into my niche? Does this fit into, what my core program is or whatever my core offer is? And yes, that's important. Yes. But also, is it authentic to you, who you are? Because as humans, we're all ever evolving. We're always changing. You're a real person. And who do people buy from? They buy from people.
Yeah, from Amazon. They buy from Amazon a lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Okay, right. But we're not selling. I don't know about you, but I'm not selling to the Amazon consumers, right? Like I'm selling to the Gucci consumers, like or like the Louboutin. Whenever, if you want a pair of red bottoms, I don't think that you guys wear red bottoms. But I mean,
red sneakers. I have a pair of amazing red sneakers. Everybody left when I
don't think red bottoms are. Sneakers, no.
It's not the same.
Underwear. You're talking about underwear.
Language barrier, culture barrier.
Even the microphone was like, no, Louis, stop talking. Shut up. Yeah, clippable moment.
So you were saying you sell to obviously the Gucci buyers. And by that you mean, high ticket people that really care about the value of their product, right?
That's right. They want a personalized experience. So let's say that you want to go get a tailor-made suit, right? You want to walk in and you want someone to say, hey, how are you today? What are you looking for? What type of event are you going to? Yeah. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about your style. What would you typically wear? Okay, let's try this on. And someone that's going to walk you through that experience. You're buying from the experience that person delivers to you.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I work with are also delivering experiences like this. So I work with B2B clients. I work with other course creators. I work with people in the online world, the B2B world. So it doesn't always look one way, but even like my most technical of clients, they are very introverted, very analytical. And I'm telling them, you have to go live. Mm-hmm. You have to press go live. You have to do it. And they're like sweating. I mean, for them to come into a room like this for the first time, they're sweating. And I'm like, no, just go be you. Just go talk about what's true to you. And they're like, but do I need a script? Can you tell me what to say? No, I cannot tell you what to say. So even whenever we were recording our content for the VSLs, you probably saw me kind of going back and forth between the script and not the script.
Yeah.
Because it's
almost like bullet points and you were just following those specific points.
Yeah, because you have to follow what's true to you. And I think the same thing is true for your content. Be in alignment with who you are. Yeah. If you have a core message, and this is why you document stuff. I actually keep a running notes list in my phone constantly. I'm like, boom, idea, boom, inspiration. Oh, I want to say that. And it's like always, I have over 1,000 notes in my phone from content ideas. Yeah. And it's just because I get inspiration everywhere I go.
And you just go in there, type it.
Yes, I just go in there, write it out. And I may never do anything with it, but if I'm ever stuck on what to say, or I'm just bored, I'll just pull up my notes and I'm like, oh, that was such a great idea I had. Or, oh, let's go expand on that. Let's go riff on that topic. Yeah. So I think if you're a new content producer, if you're new kind of sharing your ideas into the world for whatever reason, whether you're selling a product, a service, promoting your own podcast, take note of what your ideas are. Yeah. Take note of what your thoughts are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we talk a lot about that.
You do a pretty good job
capturing your idea. I do a pretty good job at capturing ideas. I don't do a pretty good job at following up on those ideas and be like, and remembering that I had those captured.
Here's the funny part. He goes like, I had this idea, and he tells, that's a great idea. And then he writes in his little analog notebook. And then I was like, I remember that he had a great idea. And I'm like, I want to say something about that idea, but then I can't find it because he's in analog notebook. And then he lost the analog notebook.
Nah, I have a digital process. I have a digital process where I put it in there, but I don't know. It might be how my mind works. I forget that I have stuff in there saved, and it's organized. It's not like I would have a hard time finding it.
So it's just like paper notebook?
Well, I do some on paper, but the new system is online on a software. But the thing is like, when I'm like, okay, I need to create something, I totally forget I have that. I'm like,
that's why
let me come up with something new again.
Again,
yeah. So it's I don't know. I personally have a hard time remembering things. The saying, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, literally. Like that is me. I bought
not in front of it.
meditation pillows recently, and I have them in my room. And I was like, cool. When they were outside, I did some meditations.
Oh, good.
My wife put them under the bed and because they're in the middle, let's put them somewhere in there. I haven't meditated once since because I forget that I have meditation pillows.
That's right.
I tried to practice guitar, years ago, like 2 times, tried to pick it up. I stopped playing because the guitar was out of sight. I had it somewhere else, and I was like, well, I don't remember I have to practice guitar. Yeah. Now I'm taking classes with a good friend that he actually came to the podcast too.
Yeah.
And rule number 1 is have the guitar in the middle of the living room right next to you. So I can literally just do like this, reach for the guitar, and I can start playing.
Yeah.
So that's the same concept with this ideas and capturing process. I'm like, I have such a hard time. So I love the system, and I recommend the system a lot. I'm like, capture your ideas. Where I need to figure it out is how do I bring those ideas into sight at the right moment where I'm going to create,
I think, that's a trainable thing. I feel like, right? Like
it's like a muscle.
It's a muscle, right? Because like you're in constant look for like, okay, this situation, how can I adapt it to myself? And then with the thing that I do in my business, and then you can put that idea in there or go live. Like, like you said, I don't know if you know the story about us, but we did a 45 live challenge when we first started publishing because we needed to rip the Band-Aid.
We needed to get content out and just do it. Yeah.
And our internal challenge was 45 days straight. And that was a commitment. We failed the first 2 times. Long story, huge success on that side. The third time that we did it with other 100 people. And we're identifying your high energy moments of the day where you could do it, or like how to document your own ideas or these things. So personally, a framework that helped me a lot was, what is something that's happening today? What is something that I learned today? What is something that I, talked about? And I'm going to share that one story, and then I'm going to relate it to my business. And that was like my go-to framework. But like you said, it was like that muscle that you start, you're now aware of like what's going on if that's a priority for you. So the fact that you said, okay, go live initially, right?
Just do it.
Just go ahead and do it. Rip the Band-Aid. There's no other way.
Yeah.
I love it. So I appreciate that feedback.
I want to shift this because let's say somebody's listening right now and they're going, all right, cool, but I already post, I don't have that friction to create. How do we differentiate ourselves, right? And that's part of the branding, kind of like play, I guess. We see your Instagram profile and we're like, all right, that's Lindsey, 100%. So it's like, what are the things they need to keep in mind, when they're trying to be like, okay, I'm consistent, but I just look exactly like everybody else. How do I differentiate myself, right? Yeah. And we've heard that a lot of times. It's like, you don't want to just be new. You want to be different, right? I don't know if you agree with that. If you do, maybe what is potentially the difference between those two, between being something new and being something different? And what are maybe some small changes that people can do to, implement that into their brand?
Yeah. So I think it's actually nuanced. So I think that most people will start out with a new idea and they're like, oh, I'm going to launch this thing, or I'm going to start this podcast, or I'm going to start creating content. What will happen though is that 98% drop off. And so the differentiator can easily become just the staying power. How long do I stick with it? So it's interesting that you started out with a 45 live challenge. I started my podcast with what was called the Aligned Coach series, where I actually interviewed 40 something other people that were in my similar space just to expand my network. I did it live also. So I repurposed, or I streamed to Facebook, and then I turned them into podcasts. That was what launched my podcasts 4 years ago, probably. Nice. And yeah, I mean, that was what put me out there. But the staying power, now granted, I fell off. I didn't post anything for 6 months, whatever. My journey changed, but the staying power of that, here I am over 80 episodes later. Here I am 5+ years in the game. Here I am 500 clients served. Yeah. And now I have the staying power. So I remember like other women that I had interviewed on my podcast then, like we were very similar places. We'd even been like in programs or like masterminds together, and they're nowhere to be found now.
Yeah.
And I actually think that so many people get caught up in I have to be different that they actually end up kind of pinning themselves back into the box.
Yeah.
Right. And everything I stand for is get yourself out of the freaking box. Get yourself out of the box of I have to be out of the box. Get yourself out of the box that I have to do it this way. Get yourself out of whatever box that says that you have to show up a certain way.
Yeah.
So part of this is like just the staying power. Have you ever read The Slight Edge by Jeff Wilson?
No,
slightly.
It's
slightly.
It's been recommended a few times. Yes.
Okay. So I actually just read it, or I do audiobooks. I just finished it, and it was really, it's actually pretty basic.
Yeah.
It's like just,
it's kind of like that 1% every single day that it compounds over time in a way, right?
Yes.
That's the premise.
I highly recommend listening or reading to it. But essentially it's like all these efforts that I put in every single day, like that's what makes the difference.
Yeah.
So I was on a cruise in November. My girlfriend and I took a cruise.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever do it again. You have very limited Wi-Fi connection.
Oh, yeah.
And by the second day I tell her, I'm like, there's only so much time I can spend in my head. Like, this was great the first day. I want my Wi-Fi back. So that's just one thing. But during that time that I was very disconnected from the world, I was like, what would happen? And I'm having this internal dialogue with myself because that's all I have to do there. What would happen if I showed up and sold something every single day in 2025? So a lot of my sales happen in inside sales. So we have this program, then we do upsells and ascension ladders and all these things. So a lot of those sales happen inside. But I said, what would happen if on the outside, if to my audience, I one, showed up, but two, if I sold something every day? Yeah. So I actually I was like, I got curious about it.
Yeah.
So I I started this more so in December. So that's why you see my content a little bit more consistent now. So I started this, and what I've realized is that number one, I am I'm 80 to 90% consistent in most things that I do. Most things that I do, and 80% of the things that I do, I'm going to do at 80%. And I think that most people are when you're committed.
Yeah.
But 80% of 100% of the time, I'm going to be selling something 300 or 280 days out of the year, right? I'm going to show up. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to talk about the things that I stand for. So I think that it's less about I have to figure out exactly what makes me different and what are my differentiators. And it's more of just show up and do the thing that most people are not doing.
Yeah.
And get curious about what could happen when you do that.
Yeah.
I'm curious when you say sell something. It's this could be an interesting topic to discuss. I'm on the page of if your service or your product or what you do helps somebody, we have to put it out there as many times as possible.
Yeah.
Right? If we truly believe that what we do helps, our ideal client. But there's a lot of people or a lot of comments or a lot of content out there. There's entertain only or educate forever and never make an offer. And there's this two sides to it. Right. And I think at some degree, both might be true. Depending also in your own personality as a creator too, what is easier for you to create and put it out. And there's a road. Just yesterday, I was listening to an episode with Alex Ramosi. They were doing it's almost like a live training with a guy on YouTube. And he's well, here I used to plug in my book at the end of the video. It's hey, if you want to do this. Now what I do is I actually show them the book, and I'm talking about this topic. It's right here. You go buy it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes he says, we've tested the call to action. We just show it on the book, and then people alone be oh, I want the book because the thing is in the book, right? So it's pretty interesting approach. So that's my question to you. It's like, you've seen a difference. Have you tried both scenarios? Like, obviously you feel very comfortable in the selling environment. What has been the response with people? Like, do they get offended? Oh, she made an offer. Oh, she's telling me I'm going to stop consuming her stuff. Like, have you seen something on the other side of that?
That's such a good question. People love to be sold to. I love to be sold to. Like, genuinely. I love to be sold to. I love to know if you have something that can help me. And like you guys said, oh, you were an ideal client. You walked in, you knew exactly what you wanted. That's the type of buyer that I am. Not everyone's that type of buyer. No. And in fact, it took me going through a lot of iffy kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out buying experiences to be the type of buyer that I am now. Now I'm just like very decisive, or I'm like very intrigued and very engaged in my experience. Not everyone is that way though. I think that as business people, as entrepreneurs, you have a solution to someone's problem. Okay, so first of all, you have to stop apologizing for having the solution. Okay, so I work in one of the hardest industries to sell. It's cybersecurity. Okay, and they are basically walking into business owners' boardrooms or sitting down with them, and they're saying, hey, it's not a matter of if you're breached or if you're attacked, it's a matter of when. People they don't like that. But it's a disservice for them not to tell them that, for them not to share with them, hey, these things are happening in the Jacksonville area. Hey, these things just happened with the Department of Revenue. This is the information that was exposed in your company. Yeah. And you can't apologize with that. So a lot of times when our clients are like, oh, well, I went and did these sales presentations. I didn't close any of them. Okay, so I want you to tell me where you wavered in your message. Where did you waver? He's like, well, I probably did that. I'm like, okay, whenever you presented your offer, did you keep talking? He's like, oh yeah, I did tell them that, it's okay if they didn't want to upgrade. And I'm like, okay, like stop apologizing for having something that could actually help someone. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that number one, people genuinely want to be sold to if it's something of value, and value is all perception. Right? So you could look at the red bottom shoes and be like, I don't really care about those. Here, I can paint my sneakers red. Like, But me, on the other hand, I'm like, I love to be serviced and to go into a place and like, give me a glass of champagne or whatever. And now I'm in here, I'm having this experience. That is my value, or that's my perception of value. Yeah. So perception of value, how are you going to create that in your buying experience? How are you going to go, hey, this is what I think you need. You told me that you're dealing with A, B, and C. Well, look, I have this perfect podcast studio for you. I'm going to help you set this up. You don't have to worry about a thing. You walk in, bring your script if you want to. I'll move the room around for you. You created a buying experience. Whenever I came in here as a consumer, I was like, that was a great experience, right? I could have done this at home. I could have recorded this in my office at home. But instead, I'm like, no, I want this experience. I booked with you guys. Your website was easy to find, all these things. That was valuable to me. It would be a disservice if you're like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to reach out to her. I'm not going to, I think you had to follow up with me to like get booked in. Like we had to go back and forth a little bit. And if you would have been like, well, I was like,
who's this Lindsey person? Like, I want to know more. Yeah. Part of it is like, okay, well, we're not, how can we make it easy for them at the end of the day? Obviously, like, it's on the service side, but like you said, we're providing a solution. We just need to learn a little bit more about what you need to see if we can fulfill it. There's people that booked the studios and we're like, we're not the solution for you at the same time. But anyways, parenthesis. Thank you for the amazing testimonial. Clip it.
Get it out. Yes, exactly. So, but if you had not followed up with me, or if you had not sent the email, I think because I wanted to book it longer than like an hour slot. Yeah. And if you hadn't have taken that extra step, and if you'd been like, well, I don't want to be salesy or pushy, or like, what if this gets on her nerves or whatever, I wouldn't have been here. Right. And I will thank people for following up with me. Like if my communication drops off, or if something happens or I forget to text back, I will thank you for following up. Like I genuinely appreciate that, because life is busy. Yeah. And we're all lifing around here. Yeah. So follow up, like be the type of seller, be the buyer that you want to experience as well. So sell your shit.
I like it. Is that the tagline? Is that your tagline? Yeah. Sell your shit? No,
it can be. Maybe I should get a hat made.
I think your hat, unreasonable, sell your shit. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I like that. I'm curious too. I don't want to change topics too hard. So I'll get to the unreasonable part later. Okay. But, I love this obviously about sales, and we've had previous episodes where we talked about, the fear that comes with selling and all that stuff. But I don't know. I'm curious, right? Somebody that is listening and they're like, okay, I try to sell. I have multiple conversations. Maybe what is an aspect that they can look and evaluate, what they're doing and see like, okay, well, maybe how do they become aware of the mistakes that they're making throughout the process, right? Also, again, for me, I'm glad I have this guy because he loves to sell. He loves talking to people, and doing this stuff. I'm not so much like that, right? I feel like I'm the more, I'm not.
You have more friction in the process.
I'm not quite introvert. I'm not quite like introvert, but I just like to like keep to myself and just like share my ideas or at least capture them and then forget where they are, But at the same time, I do enjoy the feeling of helping people a lot, right? Like that is actually my absolute favorite. When I'm in call, once they're clients and we're in calls and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, we can do this and that and let's plan it together. Like that is where I'm like, this is amazing. And I've had some sales conversations where I feel myself in that zone, right? I'm like just helping, right? Which we had a guest a while back, Chris Doe. He said, just change the word sell for help, and I love that. I really love that. But there's always the part of, all right, how much is it? How much is it gonna be? And I don't know why I have this.
And then on my side, it's like, do not help them pass this if they don't pay for that.
Yeah. Put like guardrails up.
Pretty much.
But I'm like, I just like to help so much. I just like to help them out.
I'm like, yeah, but you also deserve to be paid.
Yeah, 100%. But at the same time, so I like struggle when it's like trying to. I think I've been getting better, but at the time of like dropping the price and, and I don't mean like dropping the price. I mean like dropping them in the face, dropping the price in the face.
You should find the comment you wrote yesterday about Justin's stuff.
I know. That was pretty good.
You should read it
on fire.
Right now live so we can get feedback from Lindsey. And that's the evolution of him. And I would
love to.
Sometimes how it's easier. I feel like everybody has this a little bit. It's easier to tell somebody like, yeah, you should totally do this. But when you have to do it later, you're like, shit. I'm like, it's a little bit, kind of like, two-faced a little bit there if you want. But
well, he finds that. Lately in the episodes, we talked a lot about the transition, obviously, between the content and the purchase and that connection, right? So a lot of people come into, content as in, this is my way to selling. Like they have the idea, but then like tactically, it's really hard for them to figure out like, what does that look like? Is that I send them to a landing page and then the landing page goes to like a call and then the call, like all these like steps, or like, should I tell them to DM me and then on the DM I send this crazy automation, or do I respond myself? Like, do I sell high ticket, low ticket? Like we've seen like all of it, right? I'm sure you have too. What has been maybe a mix of like a specific maybe framework or a couple of things that you're like, that have worked really well in your industry, right? And we have a lot of listeners that might have like lower ticket info products, right? We have a lot of listeners that sell coaching services, right? So what has been maybe like one or two tactics that have worked for you?
Yeah. If you're having problems selling and you're not sure what to say to people, go have more conversations. Go talk to someone. Go
like at the coffee shop, somebody at the coffee shop?
It could be at the coffee shop, preferably a local coffee shop.
I like it. Good job.
So you want to have more conversations with people.
Yeah.
You just need to talk to people and get really curious and take away the transaction that's attached to that conversation. So instead, you go in with an air of curiosity. So it's just like, oh, what would happen if I sold something every single day for this year? Go into the conversation like, oh, how could I just meet this person wherever they are? And I can just get curious in what we could create together.
Yeah.
So whenever I kicked off that Aligned Coach series, like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, I was just like curious, what connections will I make? What will happen from this? Several of those guests that I had ended up being clients. They ended up connecting me with other people who became clients. I became a client of a few of them. So you just have to go into conversations, I think, with an air of curiosity. Number one, if you're having trouble in what to say in your copy, on your landing pages, in your content, all those things, go have a conversation with someone. Have a conversation every single day with someone.
Yeah. By the way, like, how does it look like if you're on Instagram? Literally call them through the DMs. Like, be like, or send them a voicemail. Hey, do you mind having a conversation with me for like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I would like to learn more about, what you need and whatever, or I want to learn more about this topic. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are afraid to talk to somebody on the phone, whether that's like DMs or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think there's like this generation, there's this like generation of like of up and coming adults that have never worked in person with anyone. And I'm finding that, like, seriously, I have several team members now who we saw them
digital.
at our live event. They're like, you're the first coworker I've ever met in person. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Wild. Yeah. Like it's wild. So I can see how people may be afraid to have conversations or meet someone in person and like do those things. I think that's totally valid.
Yeah. I'm laughing here a little because I'm listening to you guys and all I'm thinking is, I think I need therapy. Because I'm like, all I'm thinking is like, I love giving value, but I'm so ashamed of like asking, doing the close, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, to be honest, I think everybody needs therapy at some point.
I mean, 100%.
Like,
therapy is good. Therapy is
so
good.
Fonzie, I would like go like that without going
time?
like, yeah, we're going to go there. We're going to do this. Okay? But like, seriously, I would go back to like what some of your money stories are. Right. So for example,
100%. Yeah. We revisit those.
We've cried on the show over those.
It's going to get really dark really fast.
Yeah.
So here, let me, I wanted to add the therapy bit here for context for what I'm about to read you, right? This is a comment that my brother was talking about.
I was very proud of that comment.
So this is actually my belief, right? So I do believe this 100%. The challenge is when I'm having the conversation, I love helping, but then it's again the close, right? The ask part. I don't know why I have such like a friction in there. So here's somebody left this on one of our podcast episodes with a guest that talks on sponsorships, right? She put, I really enjoyed listening to this and found it packed with valuable information, blah, blah, blah. That said, while his experience and knowledge are impressive, I was turned off when I checked out his website and course afterward. Charging nearly $1,500 is outrageous, especially knowing how hard it is for new creators starting out, many of whom are struggling financially and lack experience or paid deals. It's disappointing to see someone profit off of beginners in this way when they likely understand those same struggles firsthand. So she put that on the comment. So I went
Where's the trigger button? Where's the trigger button?
I don't think we have a trigger. All of ours are very positive.
Yeah.
Positive buttons only.
All right, so I went on like, crack my fingers.
Crack the knuckles button.
And then started type keyboard warrior mode, right? But like positive keyboard warrior,
right.
not
positive.
like, and I was like, here, what about colleges that charge 10x or even 100x that with no guarantee of anything? Justin's, or that's the guess that we had, YouTube channel has amazing resources you can check out for free. But if you want more structure and support, it is totally reasonable and expected, in my opinion, to charge. Either you invest your time and try to do everything on your own, or you invest in someone else's experience and results for the only shortcut out there. Wouldn't you want to be compensated for the experience, for your experience and expertise? How different is that from being compensated in your job? In fact, the reason brands pay creators is because their expertise and assets, audience and or skills they have developed, same as Justin. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just encouraging a change of mindset around education. Marcus Aurelius, of course, I had to drop a little Aurelius in there, mentioned on his book Meditations, and to realize that this education is the sort of thing on which one should spend lavishly. Finally, look at it as an investment. You're paying to learn a legit skill that has an upside for amazing results. You might pay $1,500 today, but what if tomorrow you close a $5,000 deal, $10,000 deal? I personally know people that work with Justin that have made six figures from a single deal. Isn't that worth $1,500, right? Thank you.
That's good.
So like my belief, I truly believe that, right? I believe in education. I mean, I'm always trying to learn something, like put a book in front of me about a topic that I'm interested in, I'll buy it. Put a course, I'm like, oh, yeah,
just buy it, don't read it?
No, I buy it, read it, man. I'm like, I dabble in stuff. I love learning. I love education. So like, and I don't mind, obviously, high ticket. I believe too on paying the price.
Yeah.
But again, when is my turn to make the offer, right? Not when purchasing necessarily, like to make the offer, I'm like sweating bullets, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know, these stories in my mind probably, just kind of like creeping in. It's like, you're going to get rejected. I was like, no. So I don't know. I'm curious about that.
So number one, you have way more patience than I do because my response would have said, you're probably not his ideal client. 6 words. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all I would have said. But yes, to all that you said, I think that was a very thorough, well thought out response. Love that. And all of that is correct. My first business coach or business, actually the first coach I would say was a book that I bought by Marie Forleo. It's called Everything is Figure Outable. And I attended like her book launch call and all these things. I was a first grade teacher at the time. Bought the book, changed my life, decided to put in a resignation notice to my job.
Nice.
First program I ever bought though to launch my own business. It taught me how to put my offer together. Taught me just some basic like principles of selling. Was $2,500. I think. Yeah. And I was a teacher. I was on a $36,000 a year salary.
That's a big investment.
I mean, that's almost 10% of your salary.
I put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
I didn't have $2,000 saved up. I put it on a credit card. Right? It was a different life, you know?
Yeah.
And if I had not done that, I mean, would I have been here? Maybe, probably, but also probably not because since then I've invested in so many opportunities, so much mentorship, all those things. But it had to start with me being convinced of that first, of the value of that. Right? 100%. So that's the first thing. Second thing, Fonzie, is if I have a question, if you didn't have Luis here,
I'll be in the streets. I'll be.
There's no way. No, there's no way.
I think that you would have to maybe there's a little bit of like, well,
too much reliance.
But it's okay. Like you counter your counterparts to one another.
Yeah.
You know?
I think from my point of view, when I'm having those conversations, I feel pretty safe. Because obviously we provide a service. So I'm pretty comfortable with the team, with where the service is going. Feel comfortable with him, as I'm like, I trust him because like he will have incredible conversations with our customers and, the service, the product would look incredible, right? My skill level is maybe a 5. His skill level is like a 9. So like, okay, I can deliver, but I know like my backup is way better, right? So like, I think that helps me personally to do that. And then also, finding the team members to do that as well. Same thing, right? We just got a sample from like a new show that we're doing and we're both like obsessed with the product that we got. And we're like, this is like our next tier like service. Like I'm ready to go sell it because we feel so good about it. So I think like to me, that helps me on his side. I don't know. Again, we got to figure that one out. But yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the reliance on him, which I will be honest, I have had that thought multiple times, I'm like, am I too reliant on my brothers sometimes? But I'm curious to see what.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's like too reliant. If that's the partnership that you have worked out, I think only very few people can actually have a partnership in business, right? And if there is a partnership, I don't agree. I don't personally agree with 50-50 because someone has to have like a majority say at the end of the day when we can't agree on something. That's my opinion. But I think that you go into partnerships because you both have unique strengths and you both have things that like you bring to the table, right? We all have our superpower. You asked me in my application, like, what's your superpower? And you came into this together because you're like, oh yeah, you've got the talent. Like you've got this, you got this brain and you can put all these things together. And then you came and you're like, okay, well, like you actually get it out to market and you're the one that actually goes and sells this stuff. So you brought your superpowers together. So I don't necessarily think that it's like a weakness, right? Like if that's the agreement that you have with one another, awesome. I do think that whenever your back is against the wall though, there is an entrepreneurial like spirit that kicks in. Yeah. Like there's a fire, there's like an extra gear that will kick in. And if Luis was like, I don't know, couldn't sell, let's say he went mute and couldn't type and like, he was like, oh, can't help you, brother. Sorry. Yeah. And like you had to sell, I think that you'd figure it out.
Yeah, well, no, 100%.
No, you would figure it out. You would.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So part of the conversations that we have is like I try to remember moments where we've been in those situations and we're like, we came better on the other side of it. Like one of them was our first investment, big investment was our first mastermind. We paid $25,000 for this thing.
I love that.
I quit my job in September 2019. The agreement was I needed enough money in the bank for a year to support me and Katie. That was half of that. Half of that was to the mastermind. I didn't tell her.
Oh boy.
And then we started. Oh boy, she knows now. But the program started and they sold a ton. That was the first time that they did, and the bank froze the fund, so they couldn't collect. So we're like, whew, okay. So they're delivering
extra wiggle room.
Yeah. So they start delivering the content. We're having these conversations. We're learning. We're like executing all this stuff. And then 4 months in, they're like, hey guys, good news. We're going to start collecting. And we're like, what? And it was like, literally like if they collected that month, we had no money for the rest of the month type deal. And that was one of those moments where it was like extra like gear. And this was like 2020. But that was the birth of the service that we offer. And that was the birth of the podcast. And that was the birth of like what we built until now to be able to have this studio and to be able to have conversations with people like you and events and networking, blah, 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 right? That was the birth of it. And I think when it comes to like down the line, we've tried to figure this out. We're like, are we just idiots that like we have to like kind of get into that spot and not actually do it proactively? Because it tends to happen. It's happened a few times where it's like, oh, we're back in that like back against the wall moment and now we got to perform.
Yeah.
Why don't we learn and do it proactively, right? And it's the gaps are becoming, shorter. I guess we execute better for longer now, I guess.
Yeah. That's good.
So I guess we're learning, but yeah.
The feast and famine. That's a cycle, the feast and famine cycle.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I love this, obviously, therapy. Who doesn't like a good session of therapy? But appointment setting.
Therapy over coffee. See, we were talking about the show earlier. Yeah.
Online appointment setting, that's where I'm curious. I was reading that on the form that you shared with us. Okay. I think it goes hand in hand with this. Something that I struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of people struggle with, is like, we actually were talking about on LinkedIn, on the podcast, what was it, yesterday, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Right. We had a guest, we were talking about LinkedIn. I was like, dude, I just not hate, but it's like, I have so much friction with having to go and like engage in everybody's comments and stuff. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like that's hire a VA, right? But then what's the struggle with, because we talked about this. Yeah. Like, just handing off your account to like a VA and like.
Problems are not unique.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I don't know, like, well, it's not the VS one, whatever. But my point is, what are online, let's say, online appointment setting, right? For online businesses or services, right? Coaches, consultants, B2B, like what are some of the good approaches, right? That you would train people on, because this is what you do, right? You train sales teams on this stuff and like you get them to execute. I might be secretly asking this question for us, bro.
Yeah, I offer coaching also. Yeah, no, that's really good. Okay, so online appointment setting. So again, think about it as having a conversation with someone, and whether it's online or it's in person. I actually train outbound dialers. So I train appointment setters who are making cold calls. If I told you to pick up your phone right now and call a random stranger and pitch your services,
that'd be wild.
It would be wild, right?
We can do it.
we can plug the phone in here.
What?
Yeah.
So that's literally what I train people to do. And they look at me just like that. They're like almost want to like throw up a little. Like, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
So, the whole point is that you can't expect someone to buy something from you if they have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Right? So a couple of things come to mind. Number one, put yourself in a place of discomfort every single day. What am I going to do today to make myself uncomfortable? Right? And so it's probably safe for us to not engage in the comments.
100%.
And really, I don't actually think that's valid. I don't think that you're not engaging because you don't want to be salesy. I think you're actually not engaging because you just don't want to block out the time to do it because it's mundane and it's not a challenge to you.
That, and also because I just feel like every time I just jump on social media, my whole brain, first I get distracted a lot, I'm like, oh, I'm going to come in here to comment. 3 hours later, I'm like, what am I here for? I forgot what I was here for, and I'm like all over the place. Mm-hmm. And also just like consuming and seeing all the social media too. Like it just personally doesn't do good. Just the type of like how I like recent things, I start thinking other people, and all this stuff. And I'm like, that inside talk, I really don't like that. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a challenge for me, but I know other people might be like, okay, I don't have that challenge. So
I think whenever you log in to go comment, I think again, you could be looking at it as a transactional state too. So then the reason why you go scroll is because you actually don't really want to do it. Right. True. So a couple of things here. Number one, you can outsource this totally. You can outsource this to someone else to do, but also again, everything's nuanced, right? There's like, flip side. You could also think about it as, do I want to just be leaving like random kind of bland comments?
I don't.
Awesome. Looks great.
Nope.
So cool.
Yep.
You don't want to do that.
Not at all.
I think that people are actually jaded to that. I think in 2020, like the boom of the online entrepreneur, 2020, 2021, that was like the thing that you did. You go leave, 50 comments a day. People engage back with you. You move it to the DMs. You have a conversation with them. You get them on a sales call. You pitch your service. Like that was kind of the flow of things. I think that people are actually very numb to that, especially if they're in the online course creator, coaching world, info products. I think that people, they smell it out, right? Like they're like, yeah, I know what you're doing. Why are you leaving this comment? I don't know you. So I think it's important that we actually shift our approach. Instead of us trying to, let me go comment on 50 accounts today, why don't I create content that's so damn good that people want to come back and talk to me? So this comes back to saying the thing that is true to you, being different, doing all those things. So go create content that polarize people. Go create content that make people say something back to you. That was stupid. His products are too expensive. I don't like what you wore. I don't like that plant that's in that video right there. Do the things that actually make people talk to you. Become the sought after entrepreneur, the sought after whatever you are that you do. Make people come talk to you because content actually serves as the door to the conversation. Yeah. So it's like, hey, we're doing this podcast. We talked about X, Y, Z, and maybe we put like a strong hook on there that says, Lindsey says, outbound comments are dead. Yeah. And then people start, that's bullcrap. We do that. We have VAs, blah, blah, blah. But now we have people commenting. But you know what that did was it actually made people curious. So we have engagement. That's great for the algorithm. But now people are curious. Yeah. Now they want to know more about this because now we've planted a seed that, maybe my approach isn't actually totally true.
Yeah. Or the people that also, we call them the silent watchers. They see all these comments come in and they're like, I actually agree with those guys. I don't agree with the comments that are coming in. And it's like, let me find out more about that. Yeah. It's happened before. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that aligns more with, my values too. On like the person I want to be. I don't really care too much of like what other people think about me, but I'm like, the person I would feel
with those shoes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wearing Birkenstocks for those and socks and Birkenstocks. Yeah, it's a little chilly outside. It's a little chilly outside. Also, my big toenail is kind of effed up because of soccer. So just saying, it's not a pretty sight.
But closed toe shoes rule.
Let's get back to what we were talking about. Let's swing back in here. I want to be a person more of depth, not like go wide and comment on everybody and whatever. I'm like, I think that comment that I read in a way describes that, which is like, I like to go a little bit deeper in certain things, and like, let me quote Marcus Aurelius on here, I think it's a cool example. I don't know why. Maybe I'm like romanticizing thinking and stuff like that in a way, but I do like that, the depth. So I like that approach, right? The approach of like, all right, just be yourself and like go deep into potentially starting the conversations rather than like just go search and that hustling right there. I think that definitely aligns more with, my values and what I try to do. I was actually thinking about the cold calling. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we should do a cold call in here. My brother can definitely do it.
You totally can.
Funny story. When we started Bass Bros, I had a job. I used to manage fitness studios, right? So there's this morning where we're like, okay, we're going to start calling all these restaurants because we're going to sell a social media service to restaurants. We're the victims of Ty Lopez at the time. Yeah. And so anyways, Fonzie is in his room with his headphones on and I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going to go work and make the calls and let me know how it goes.
And he's like, good luck. Yeah.
My job at the gym was like, we will get leads and we'll call them every single day on call. They would like go to events, stay with events. Like that was like my day to day. And I had to do a minimum of 60 calls a day. Right. Which is, by the way, not a lot. Anyways, come back. And he's still pacing. Like, this is like 8 hours later. He's pacing through the room. He's like, how'd it go, bro? I was like, I haven't made my first call yet.
Nah, I made like 3, something like that. I made like a few.
Still.
You had to make the calls?
Yeah, I had to make the calls.
You had to call the restaurants to see if they were
I had a little like headset.
Because you had to go to work.
Yeah, I had to go to work. And then I came back at the end of my shift and I was like, how did it go? Like, can we like pick it up, back up? I'll help you. And like, yeah, like whatever.
He's like,
I will say though.
Have you made the calls yet?
Those no, but I made some calls.
8 years later,
I would say the first ever client that we had, it was a cold call that I did.
That is true.
I did the cold call. the guy was like, sure, you can come to a restaurant and we can talk. And then
it was one of those 3 calls. Yes.
Yeah,
Those calls work.
We've heard.
There's I have to send it to you, but there's like this Italian dude that like coaches on cold calling and like opening of cold calls.
Oh, okay.
And he's hilarious. And he records himself showing the thing and like the whole audio. And it's like, I'm showing you how to do it. And so he trains cold callers inside of companies.
You should send me some of his content. I'd love to see it. Yeah.
It's incredible. I think I'll send you a couple of clips.
All right, so I feel like we're debating so much, but I love it. This conversation is so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say like cold calling we could do a cold calling challenge one day. I'm down. Whatever. I'll get rejected and depressed, but it's okay. I'm kidding.
We're starting a new vlog. Weekly vlog.
Weekly vlog, cold call.
Yeah. No. That will be one of the episodes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense. So I'm curious on like, you get a list of numbers, right? There's plenty of services out there that you can go on like Sword or whatever, or like Sales Navigator, I'm guessing, from LinkedIn, and then you just like pick up the phone and start calling people.
Yeah, you can do it manually. You can plug it into a CRM. I think that you just have to start with the first call, though.
How scary,
right? Like you just have to do the first one. But I actually want to circle back to what you were saying about your content.
Yep.
And how you said that was more of your approach to go deeper. So in your content, does it reflect the level of depth that you had in that comment?
What do you mean? Like the content that we...
Your regular content.
Left,
oh, my regular
content?
content?
Regular content, like, have that level of depth to it?
I like to think yes, but at the same time, majority of the content is like clips from the podcast, so I do think a lot of stuff like gets out of context when you clip, 30 seconds, 60 seconds from a full-on hour conversation. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is not
especially
going to make it.
In the podcast, yes. In the podcast, we dive in, right? Like, that's our main, we go there, we go deep, like whenever.
And have you felt we've had depth in this conversation?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go.
Talked about therapy.
100%. So, like, that's like the main form of content that we create, right? Then what happens is we have the clips. That is turning to more of a brand awareness. Like every time we go to an event, the reaction is like, we see you guys everywhere, like all the time. And like it keeps us in their feeds, in their eyes. But as far as like the layer of like, this is my personal content on my personal take on this, for example, we've done it here and there is not consistent. Okay. Right. Yeah. So like, that's a layer maybe that we need to experiment with and try.
I'll say, I think the reason, at least in the last year, the self-reflection, and the conclusion that we got to was lack of bandwidth, because we're still kind of still in the weeds in the business, right? We do a lot of the fulfillment, a lot of the stuff, right? And like creating does take a lot of energy, right? Yes. So, the guy that is teaching me guitar, shout out Dan, love you, man. He's awesome. But he says I wake up every day at 5 a.m. and send a newsletter to my email list, right? Wow. And he does it every single day. I see his emails every single day on my inbox, right? Wow. So like it does take a lot of bandwidth to do so. So either I start waking up earlier and start writing, or who knows. But there was some time actually where I was like, first thing in the morning I would do was just write the newsletter and we would like send it out and stuff like that. So that's another challenge. Here's another challenge for you. Wait, quick second. Here's another challenge for you.
Wait.
I like to jump in from like one thing to the other, and not necessarily because I'm like chasing gold. It's just like I do one thing and I enjoy it, and then I get bored and I'm like, all right, cool, next thing. And a little bit of like ADHD-ish, I guess. I haven't been tested or anything, but I think I kind of like had that.
What's it called? Self-diagnosed.
Yeah.
I definitely self-diagnosed myself. So I'm curious, like, because the problem is like my self-talk is like, I know the consistency is key. You got to stick for the long term with one thing, but I'm like, but already kind of like did it. And like, it was fun for a moment, but I'm like, now I want to learn a different skill, learning, I want to go deep into a different thing, right? Yeah. Like how have you managed any of that? Have you had people on your team?
Never seen that before. Never.
No. How do you deal with that stuff?
More.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm unique, I'm special, but
I know their problems are unique. Yeah. No, that is a case of entrepreneurship, right? Like that is a case of just being like genuinely like, I want to follow my own path. I think everyone deals with that. Every client I've ever worked with, every business owner, every creative,
they're like that.
You're a creative. Like that's what it is. You're not just a business owner, you're a creative. Yeah. You want to create shit that matters. Like you want to create something that means something to you. You want to create something that challenges you, that stimulates you mentally. So of course it makes sense. Right. Yeah. I also think that there is some upper limit sometimes that we can run into. So, for example, let's say you've been running your newsletters consistently for. Did you guys know that you have the same mannerisms?
No, we're sitting down. We're like identical.
We are brothers.
You are brothers. Yeah.
It's the same mother.
Yeah, let me change it here.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel so awkward
You're like,
now.
let me do something different. It was just funny. You're both like tuned in. Like,
Yeah.
but you can upper limit yourself
Not
sometimes.
awkward at all now.
So you, now we're all distracted.
We're self-conscious.
Like if you've been consistent doing something, I cannot deal with you. You've been consistent.
Is that different? Yeah.
It is.
And
different.
then you find yourself like you're about to hit like a new level of success. You'll actually back off from doing it.
Bro, stop.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just listening. I'm literally engaged. I'm listening right now.
I hope you at home are also laughing. Listen, saying something really important right now. Pay attention.
Important. So you'll actually back off from doing it though, because subconsciously your brain is like, if I keep doing this, I may actually fail even though I've been consistent. So whenever you refuse to do the cold calls, it's called call reluctance.
Yeah.
When you experience call reluctance, it's what if I actually make the calls today and everyone tells me no? What if I actually do it? Now you're not consciously saying this to yourself,
that's your
but
mind,
subconsciously, we stop ourselves from going all the way into something because what if I show all the way up and I still don't get the results that I hope for? So then we're going deep here, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is like deep stuff.
This is episode 2 material.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, should I pause?
No, you're good.
No.
We can.
Keep going. Yeah.
I mean, we have to wrap up soon, but yes. Not to be
Wrap it up, Lindsey.
Debbie Downer. Yeah.
Got it. So what happens though is when we're hinging onto those results, it's probably because we're compensating for something else in our life, right? So I'm telling myself, well, I'm gonna hold myself back. I'm not gonna make the cold calls. I'm not gonna put my content out there. I'm not gonna share my real thoughts. I'm not gonna say the price. I'm not going to do the thing that I committed to doing. I'm gonna go do something else because it looks fun, right? The reason why I'm doing that, well, if I show up and I did all those things and I failed, what would that mean about me? It would actually mean that I'm trying to compensate. I'm trying to get the result because maybe I have a fear that unless I achieve something, I'm actually not worthy. Unless I make X amount of money, I hit X amount of money per month, I'm really actually not valid or enough, or I don't provide enough. Or maybe there's like this voice in the back of our head that tells us I've got to make up for all this stuff. So I've got to hit this result, which then in turn, I love goals, huge goal setter. Great, awesome. But what can happen is we actually hold ourselves back because if I go all in, I will fail. Oh my God. And then what? They're going to kick me out of the village. We're all just sophisticated animals.
Yeah.
Right. So if I fail, nobody's going to like me. I'm going to be found out. They're going to kick me out of the village. And we were animals thousands of years ago. And so if I get kicked out of the village, then I die. Right. I can't survive without being liked and validated by everyone. So you see how our problems are actually a lot deeper.
Oh, yeah.
Than like, oh, I procrastinated or I get distracted. Yeah. No, it's like so much deeper than that. Right. And so you have to face those things head on and be like, okay, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to do it anyways. Maybe you set up routines for yourself. You set up coaching. You set up mentorship. You set up things in your life that are going to help you stick with that.
Yeah.
And you just push through it. Right. Yeah. And it's like, well, Lindsey, I already knew that. I don't need doing it. But I think it's a habit.
Yeah.
It's a muscle.
Maybe I do care what people think about me.
Yeah.
That's the conclusion.
I think we all do.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, subconscious.
I want to be part of the village.
You are in the village, man. You are.
In the village.
Thank you.
In the village.
You are. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah.
Where can they go? Where are the links that
with
we
that
put?
question.
I'm hungry, man. Like this was an early morning today.
He's like, we're done with Fonzie. Now we're going to me next. Yeah. So we're going to wrap this thing.
No, we do have a session that's starting in the studio soon, so that's why. Yeah. But we're, by the way, open doors, part 2, part 3, how many times you want, you know, you're welcome, like regular ship and Contents Profit Hall of Fame. Fun. Yeah.
I'm going to throw out an idea. We should do an event together in Jax. You know,
oh my God,
do like an event together and, you know, put a little curriculum in there. We have people that are here in Jax that are amazing.
It's official in-person event in Jax.
Let's go happening.
Why did we do the same thing? Why? Oh my gosh. No, I'm super subconscious about that.
For the record, he's a younger brother, so he copies me.
He copies you. That's right.
Yeah, but let's do it. I think it would be cool. And there's a lot of people here in Jacksonville that can definitely, add some value in there. We can do something together.
So I've actually kind of teased the idea of doing one in Amelia Island. Ooh. So we could do it on the island. We could do it here in Jax.
Oh, yeah.
I like the sound of island.
I am so here for this.
Yeah, okay. An island sounds cool.
Jacksonville, new land for entrepreneurs. Just saying, there's a lot of awesome people that work all around the world that they just live here. So we just need to bring it back, it back home.
Yeah, the one we need to connect with is Ed Milet. We need to get to Ed Milet here in Jacksonville.
And Candy. Candy?
Yeah. Our first target was Lindsey, and we made it. We made it happen, guys. We made it happen.
Lindsey, share with everybody your links. Where can people find you?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram. Come find me, Lindsey.Badillo, Badillo. Most active there. Come say hi. Say hi to me. Message me. Tell me what your favorite part of the episode was. Did you enjoy therapy today?
Yes.
Yeah. And just
you
come
cry?
hang out.
Yeah. Your social media is very entertaining. So for sure, we'll leave the link down below. So just scroll down and tap it and connect and send their message.
Yeah. Awesome.
This was amazing. My last question is, why Unreasonable for your podcast?
Why not? Why not? Why not Unreasonable?
I don't know.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's right.
You had the cheers going on.
Yeah. Well, guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning to the Content Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at These Bros Go.
That is right. And with Lindsey here, help you move one step closer towards your goal and make those cold calls. Please don't forget to share this episode. And of course, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Awesome.